A new year now, don't you see? It's time that we all step up. John Cooper's running the show, don't you know? Rotarians! Listen to what we're trying to do. Yakima Downtown Rotary is the best. That's right. Listen up. Here we go. It's go time. Showtime. Yes, we're back again. Big projects in the works. We're Yakima's best friend. We're in the streets. Can't be beat. This is what we got to do. Whatever it is, it'll be fun. You know we're gonna make it look cool. Step up. We're a rocking club with some projects in our pocket. Step up. All our friends are looking on as we're checking off the docket. Step up. Got work to do and about to get busy. Step up. Now, please welcome number 108, President John Cooper.
Okay. Now, some of you might be thinking, John, did you create that with AI? No. As a matter of fact, that was an original song that was composed and sung by none other than our talented chair of our music committee, Joe Bionde. In sharing this song with me, Joe wrote, I've worked on a piece this last week doing what I did a lot in radio, and that is taking a karaoke bed underlying tune and put it in a song. He further stated the idea had been rolling around in his head for the last couple of weeks when I announced our theme of Step Up, and so he'd been working on that. And Joe, it's amazing what you have done. You are truly the groove master of our club. Step up, Joe, and everybody give you a round of applause. Stand up. Come on now. He doesn't want to stand up. There you go. Okay, so I want to thank our greeters today. And Jane Sabatka stepped up in helping to fill in for Ricky Adams and Joel Ilvasaker. Can you both step up and stand up and be recognized for helping out? I mean, they did extra duty today because you were all, as you realized, you chose the table you're going to sit at. You just didn't gravitate to one. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit in the program. Now, I would like to have all of our guests please stand up and be recognized. All right, there's a great number of people. Thank you. Please sit down. I'm John Cooper, if you haven't met me yet so far, and I have the distinct pleasure, as Joe said in the song, of being your 108th president of this club. And this is a club that's been creating lasting impact for well over 100 years around the globe, in our community, and within ourselves. Rotary's motto is service above self, and our members time and time again step up when needed in the community. We're not just a club, we are a community ourselves. So if you are looking for a place to belong, please consider joining our club. There are blue cards on each of the tables that will give you more information about joining. So please, if you want to join, grab one of those cards, talk to me or any of our various members of the club, or Quinn Dolan. She's the chair of our membership committee. And as for members, remember, August is Membership Development Month in Rotary International. So if you've got a colleague, a friend, or someone you'd like to see in our club, please bring them to one of our gatherings. Now, as you've seen in the media and online, the past week, there were 2 fires of the Yakima Nation that wreaked havoc in and around the community of White Swan. More than 3,000 acres have burned so far, and at least 24 structures were destroyed, including 16 homes, plus the Swan Independent Indian Shaker Church and the post office. Currently, the long-term needs are being assessed by the tribe, county, state, and federal agencies for support in rebuilding. I've talked to AP with OIC, as well as our Commissioner Kyle Curtis, about how our club can best step up to assist in the efforts. In the meantime, if you'd like to assist with the short-term needs of the residents, The Yakima Nation has a donation link on the front page of their website. Now remember, it's yakima.com and it's YAKAMA.com if you'd like to make a donation. We'll keep you posted on how our club can become involved at a greater level down the road. Now, last week we did share how you can participate in our Night in Paris Gala, our big fundraiser of the year coming up on November 14th. Today, I'm going to have Deanna Eliason share another way you can help make a difference and help us to make this a great auction.
Thank you, President John. I was going to call you Sherry, but now I'm going to get used to John. Anyway, welcome Rotarians and guests. As John mentioned, November 14th is our night in Paris. And over the past several months, many of you have received emails from me. And if you haven't, I may have the wrong email address or I did a typo, but we've got several sponsors, as you saw earlier on the screen. And we're very excited and thank those that have made the commitment and stepped up for us. One of the things that's really important for all of you to know, if you haven't made a decision to sponsor yet, is that we're wrapping up some of the marketing materials by the end of August. So we'd really like your commitment if you're going to sponsor so we can give you the recognition that you're due. And you can email me, call me, reach out to me. And there are some sign-up sheets on your table, and you can just get those to me or hand them off to Carolyn, and we communicate about the list of sponsors. But let's all step up and make this a great event and support Yakima Rotary Charities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. You've seen on the screen throughout the chronicler since I became president, and we have a slide that says life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So we're going to do something right now that's a little bit different for us, for Rotary, and we're going to be doing a meet and greet. We haven't done anything like this for some time. As you notice, as you came in here, you pulled out a number. So what we're going to do is spend about 5 to 10 minutes pairing up and share some things about yourself and hear from other Rotarians and our guest. So the list of questions is on the screen, and it's also at your table if you wish to reference it. You can choose one or more of these questions as talking points, or you can choose your own if you wish. You can pair up as twos, maybe threes. If there's just a few at the table, you might just want to do it as a group. It's up to you. This is an opportunity to learn a little bit about some of your Rotarians in the club. So we're going to wrap this up when I ring the bell, and then we'll get to Sergeant at Arms after that. So you have about 5 to 10 minutes to go ahead and meet and greet your fellow Rotarians and guests. Make sense? Give you a few seconds to wrap up your conversations. If it's a good point. Did you like it? Good, good, good. Again, when we had our fireside dinners, this was one of the questions I asked was, what can we do to liven up or shake up or do something different at the meetings? And quite a few of you indicated, let's do something that gets us at different places and get to know each other. So we'll try to sprinkle a few of those other ones in different formats at future meetings. Now, next up for Sergeant at Arms, Nancy Leahy.
I hope you're getting your dollars out right now. Get out a dollar, maybe 2 or 3, in fact. What an exciting time this is. The research for my Sergeant at Arms started a few weeks ago, and I heard that Dr. Tim's going to be speaking on 40 years of Rotary, and I wanted to speak to you on 40 years of our achievement. But actually, the launching pad was yesterday at the gas station out of Costco. And a guy pulls up behind me with an Oregon license plate. I'm pumping gas, mind you, and he comes up to me and he goes, Rotary license plate? And I went, yes. And he goes, are you in Rotary? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, in Yakima? And I said, yes, I am, except 2 years for Phoenix 100. I've been here. And he said, I asked him then, I said, are you in Rotary? And he goes, yes, Bend, and I'm the president of the club. And he reached out his hand and gave me, and we shake it, and he's going, you have the most spectacular things I have ever seen. And I mean, this went on, and I've never seen such beautiful, spectacular things, and you branded so well. And one thing you've absolutely, I mean, we're still shaking, and one thing you've absolutely got to do is tell the whole club how fantastic and spectacular their branding and their projects are. I've never seen anything like it. And so I'm pulling my hand back, and I'm telling you, we inspire people. And I've got it from a Mandan band. So let's go forward and look at 40 years, which is a huge list, and I'm going to do my best to stay within this time. The very first Rotary project was in 1919, and it was building signs for our town so people could find directions, and so delivery people could deliver. The second project was a 2-year, $2,000 or $4,000 project supporting the Boy Scouts. The third project was helping children with special needs with transportation to Seattle, which they needed in order to get to the Children's Center. We haven't changed our priorities that much, actually, and this was their service above self in the 20s and 30s. So today I'm going to present achievements. I'd like, when you hear these achievements, and it'll be by category, please raise your dollar and let these wonderful Sergeant at Arms people grab it. Because impacting the community is the #1 reason we joined Rotary, and we know this, and it's also the #1 reason people stay. So if you were involved in these community projects, please devote a dollar. Habitat for Humanity projects, the Welcome to Yakima sign at our entry, landscaping the Greenway Garden, the Yakima Valley Museum's Gilbert House landscaping, Library Center at Rod's House, Library at Washington Fruit Center, and at the Beauchamp Southeast Center. In 1985, our past presidents joined to be the official Greenway meeting launcher to get the Greenway going. So thank you to those presidents in 1985. Black History Month, the Hispanic History Month, and then inspiring authentic, real-life veteran programs with our national holidays. Now, you see, building projects that will have lasting impact is our goal. and build bridges between cultures. So look at the youth scholarship projects, International Youth Exchange Project, RILA, academic and Rotary's vocational scholarships, Molly Davis scholarships, the Rotaract Advisory, the Interact Advisor, fireside and scholarship dinners, and racial justice all speak to youth and scholarship. Now, the Rotary community steps up to make Yakima a better place to live by joining with our district 5060. If you were a part of the 5060 district conferences here in 2014 and 16, and I know there was one in the mid-90s also, please donate $1. Now, how about international projects? I'm going to change our little rules here for a minute. If you were involved in any of these, please stand and stay standing. And the people you see standing gave of their own money and time to go to these countries facing bugs and illness themselves to be there to help build these things. So it was in the 1970s in Ecuador that we supplied 10,000 pairs of glasses. It was 2001 and other years we went to Ethiopia to provide hospital equipment, education, build a library, educate 1,000 women and children about public health issues. We wrote a grant for over $400,000 for the World Community Service Grant. In 2019 in Honduras, we built Clean Water Project, building a therapeutic playground for kids and bus shelters. Do we see people standing? Mexico for the Clean Water Project, Belize for the Women's Healthcare Workshop, Cambodia for water purification, the Philippines to build mobile libraries, sponsoring National Days of Immunization, and in 2018, Sierra Leone with 40,000 meals. They were stuffed right here in Yakima. Many of you should be up now, and those went to Sierra Leone in desperate need. So thank you. Let's give a round of applause and thank our international volunteers that time and time, many of them went to more than one site. Now with the Rotary Trust, all members work together cooperatively to receive memorials and gifts and then return them to build the quality of life. Now this list you've heard, I'm going to try and go briefly over it, but it's amazing. The Rotary Trust was formed in 2001. If you were part of that board, please stand or please give $1. 2006, the Gateway Sports Complex Committee began to assemble an attractive East Side youth sports facility, working arm in arm with Yakima's Kiwanis Trust as well as the Lions Club Trust. Now in 2008, Molly Davis left us $20 million and named Rotary Trust as the administrator. And in 2010, the first scholarships were awarded. Please pay $1. 2011, that committee that started 5 years earlier finished the Gateway Sports Complex with a ribbon cutting with 4 ball fields, basketball courts, playground, picnic shelter, concession stand, valued at $5 million, costing $500,000. And we replaced a swamp and decaying ground and just trash that had been left into this beautiful area we call the Gateway. So I want to thank those of you who have been involved in that. In 2013 was the Franklin Park Pavilion, then Martin Luther King Playground. We had the Rotary Food Bank initiated, the Union Gospel Mission Playground, Sarge Hubbard, Randall Park, Chesterley Park. We sponsored the field development at Sozo Complex with $300,000. The Rotary YMCA was a pinnacle moment. Millions of dollars went into the Aquatic Center. Following that in 2023 was the Rotary Marketplace that John Ball chaired, and in 26 we have, am I saying it right, Ravi or Ravi? Ravi, the lights. Okay, you guys know how to say it better than I do. The beautiful lights, and in 27 you'll see the Larson Park Universal Access Playground. Now my guess is that many of you are probably out of dollars at this point, because you have been involved in all of this, and I thank you. But I'm not going to leave just for one last mention of our yearly club activities, Operation Harvest, the Bell Ringing Salvation Army, Clean Up Yakima Day in the spring, Jobs for Youth in the spring, and the grants given to our local community groups with a focus on helping youth, the literacy grants, Triumph Treatment, YWCA, the Eye on Lung for Polio Project, the Red Cross, the Children's Village, Casa Hogar, all of these have benefited from Rotary, some of them from the beginning. We thank all of you on the membership committee, all the committees that we have, and of course, particularly our president's executive team. I thank you, Rotarians, for impacting our community and devoting your time and energy to projects that go into the future. And finally, I thank you for raising an awesome amount of money today for Rotary charities. Thank you.
Wow, that's an amazing list. Brad just dumped a whole bunch of bills on. So again, thank you, Nancy, for reminding us all that our community has benefited from Rotary over the years and will continue to receive from all of our efforts. Okay, so next up to introduce our speaker is President-elect Bruce Bacon.
President John, Rotarians, and guests, it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Tim Teusink. Tim recently retired in 2022 and returned to his hometown of Yakima after 40 plus years as a medical missionary worker, serving as a surgeon, clinical hospital director, teacher, along with wearing many other hats in his mission work. After graduating with a medical degree from the University of Washington and completing his residency in Yakima under Yakima Rotarian Doug Corcoran, Tim embarked on a remarkable career, serving others in Rwanda, Haiti, and Ethiopia. He spent the last 6 years of his career living in southern France, working as a medical ethicist for SIM, which is Serving in Mission, a global missionary organization. Continuing to travel throughout Africa, he taught other medical missionaries about ethics. Tim and his wife, Muriel, chose to lead a life of service over comfort and predictability, and they have truly impacted untold numbers of lives and have made a worldwide difference. After retirement, Tim has kept a busy life volunteering at the Union Gospel Mission Medical Clinic and is currently on the board of directors at Project Mercy, an organization based in Ethiopia that Yakima Rotary has supported for over 30 years. Tim has been a Rotarian since 1983, mostly as an honorary Rotarian while living abroad, and he was active in the Rotary Club of Addis Ababa West, the largest Rotary club in Ethiopia, and he served as their president from 2010 to 2011. On a personal note, my wife and I have personal knowledge of an additional Tim Teusink skill set. While we were traveling on our first trip to Ethiopia, Tim acted as our chauffeur and personal shopper. He took us to many off-the-beaten-path stores to shop for bargains, and anyone who has driven in Addis Ababa knows that driving there is no small feat. We found many treasures and arrived back safely. Please welcome Dr. Tim Teusink.
Thank you, Bruce, for those kind words, and fellow Rotarians, guests, President John. It's really a pleasure to be here today and share a little bit. I've thought about this club so often over the last 40-some years since becoming a member. I can drop a lot of the introductory stuff because Bruce ran over it. Let me just plug in a minute so I don't run out of juice. And Nancy, what a great Sergeant at Arms presentation you did. I'm going to expand on that a little bit, but you really covered the ground that this club has been involved in. I just want to, good. Wow, it's nice when technology worked. I started teaching and doing my work in Africa before PowerPoint, before the internet, and it's really been I kind of long for those days when you had a blackboard and nothing could fail. But thanks to our high-tech people, thank you so much for helping me with this. I just want to talk about Rotary's impact around the world. And as Bruce shared a lot of our background, my family's really been blessed to live in several different countries and just learn from different cultures and learn from different people. It's really been a blessing to us. It's not always been easy. Sometimes we found ourselves in unexpected circumstances, like a war for 3 years in Rwanda. I was thinking, just talking to Ralph Thompson earlier today, one of my favorite Winston Churchill quotations is, there's nothing quite as exhilarating as being shot at to no effect, or to be shot at and missed. And that's actually happened. And I can say that's true. It's nice to hear the bullet whizzing by and not stopping with you. So it's good to be back in Yakima. I'm glad to be alive. I love the work I did in surgery and medicine for the first part of our career. But it rapidly became apparent that one needed to focus on education. I could maybe work for 20, 30, 40 years abroad, but unless I trained nationals to do the work, it was not going to continue. And my short lifespan wouldn't go on. So that was great. And I initially did teaching in the clinical part, but what I really enjoyed was teaching ethics and being assistant professor at the Korean Hospital Medical College in Addis Ababa and working with medical students, just seeing their enthusiasm. And one of the nice things when you're teaching younger people, when you get old like me, uh, at the end of the day, you forget you're old. You kind of think, oh man, you look at all those fresh young faces and you think, maybe I am young. And then you get home and you look in the mirror and you realize that's not true, but it's, it's really been good. And I really love teaching medical ethics to family medicine residents at Kabarak University in Kenya and a few other places around the African continent. Being able to teach in French and English really has been an advantage on that continent. But one of my greatest joys is seeing the impact that Rotary has around the world through the involvement of new generations of Rotarians. It's been great to see that here in Yakima, see I mean, when I started, most of those guys are dead now in this club back in '83, but to see so many young, fresh faces and see that Rotary is going to continue into the future in this town and around the world. Founders of Rotary well over a century ago could never have imagined the impact and the transformational work that they started, and that continues and will continue in the future. I actually have a little bit of in my genes, Rotary. My family tradition includes a maternal uncle, Kenneth Beagle, who was the district governor in Michigan and has this middle school named after him. He's a wonderful man, a real gentleman, and an excellent Rotarian. But I actually was first introduced to Rotary in India in 1979 as a medical student. The surgeon at the mission hospital, the American surgeon that I lived with, he and his wife, he was very active in Rotary. And it was just wonderful to experience in a culture that was often divided by religious, political, and secular things, as many parts of the world, including our own country, are. It was wonderful to see people getting along and having a common goal in the community and in the larger world. India is one of the largest Rotary countries in the world after the US. And it just is amazing. And it's a lot of fun to go to. I went to some district conferences and weekly Rotary meetings in our town. I joined this club sponsored by Dr. Doug Corcoran, who was mentioned earlier, who is the residency director at the Family Medicine Residency, which was my first training. And then he really was my mentor in so many ways. He'd been a missionary in Thailand for 10 years and really had a vision for working around the world. I'm going to just skip to the end for a minute. The last club that I was involved with was in France, the Rotary Club of Orange, France. And I continued to be involved through Zoom. This was during COVID days with the club in Yakima, which I had served as president in. Orange is an old Roman fortress dating back to the probably 100 years BC, and it just was really an amazing place to be. And I love this slogan, and I'll translate it. It says, Rotary is the organization the most solidly financed, the largest, and a network of service. And then I love this part. Every minute of every day, Rotary feeds someone, shelters someone, vaccinates someone, and causes an intervention, surgical intervention on someone, comforts someone, and gives clean, drinkable water to somebody. That's Rotary. C'est la Rotary. It really, and with our night in Paris, we could all sort of learn this phrase and salute that. But my most active involvement was our 16 years in Ethiopia, which didn't have a lot of clubs, 21 clubs throughout the country, 16 Rotary countries. And it was a huge district. The poor district governor there had to travel all around because it included Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, and South Sudan. And a couple of those are war-torn countries, so there's not a lot going on there, but hopefully in the future. And the Club of Addis Ababa West was really an amazing club, the largest one in the country, and I was so blessed to be part of that. It just was an amazing group of men and women, very dynamic. Many of them had been students during the Emperor Haile Selassie's reign and were sent abroad, some of the finest schools in England and the US and Canada. But because the emperor was assassinated and the government was overthrown by the communists, they could not have gone back home. So they ended up working for international organizations like the UN, like Africa Union, like the World Food Program, gaining amazing experience. And then by the time we were living in Ethiopia in the 2000s, they had come back home with all of this skill and a vision for really helping people. And the key is to knowing how to do that. It was just amazing to learn from them. The meetings were very dynamic. Even have had a couple of visits from the president of Rotary International, because Ethiopia is such a key country in the Horn of Africa. And as was mentioned, I was able to serve as president in the 2010-2011 Rotary year. That's my cabinet. This is my colleague, past president and past district governor, Azev Asrat, who was head of World Food Program in several countries, and just an amazing, highly motivated, and that got so much done. I have great respect for her and many of the other men and women in the club. Now, full disclosure, I joined Rotary before women were even allowed to be members. And fortunately, the US Supreme Court changed that. I'll never forget sitting at Rotary one day, and there were a bunch of old duffers, all of whom are dead now, and I won't mention their names. But one guy said, well, that's it for Rotary for me. If women are going to be at these meetings, my wife's not going to let me come. And I said, you've never had lunch with a woman outside of your home? Well, yeah, but that's different. They were all grumpy. I said, I think you guys need marriage therapy more than anything else. And now in the club in Ethiopia that I was involved in, more than half the members are women. And for a while, I thought we'd never have a male president again because the women got so much done, as we had last year, President Sherry. I'm not dissing you, John. We men, we just have to work a little harder to keep up with the women in the club. And like here, Rotary was a lot of fun. I just loved going to Thailand for the international convention a few years ago with the club members. There were 52 Ethiopian Rotarians, and it was amazing being with them. But the sweetest story, as many of you know, coffee was kind of discovered in Ethiopia thousands of years ago. And the first morning in our hotel, it was a 5-star, really nice hotel, but the coffee was awful. It looked like muddy water and it tasted like muddy water. And several of the guys in the group said, well, that's it. We're not going to put up with this. So they sent a delegation to the kitchen to teach them how to make coffee, and which mainly meant stronger and roasting the beans longer. So the coffee was good for the rest of the week. I'm sure it went back to being muddy water after we left. But Rotary has many impacts around the world, some more important than others, but good coffee is pretty important. So probably the most enjoyable thing for me, though, was I was representative of our club and of the country for Rotaract clubs in Ethiopia. And I loved working with these young people that had so much energy and so many good ideas, and many of whom now are active Rotarians and involved in transformational ways in their communities. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the projects. We've heard some of the amazing things that we're doing here in the club in Yakima, but I'm focusing on the international part of that. And of course, the Glenn Olson Memorial Hospital with Project Mercy in Yattaban, Ethiopia, received, I think it was a $450,000 grant that started in this club, got matching grants at district and international level, and now a fine hospital operating in a very needy part of Ethiopia in terms of medical care. And it's grown beyond that. And the club members still remember, I remember the Rotarian in Ethiopia who had been the person on the Ethiopian side of working on that project. And there's just a lot of gratitude, and that continues to go on. And now Project Mercy has primary and secondary schools. Some of the top schools with the highest school high school leaving exams. One graduate is even a neurosurgeon. This is a rural area, and it's just transformed it in so many ways. Other projects that the club did was well drilling. You know, we turn on the water and just don't even think twice about it. One of the times we came home, our son told me, he was about 5 years old, he said, "Papa, you know, the water's so clean here, we can drink it out of the toilet." And I said, "Well, please don't do that." But yeah, you're right, it is clean. But to have fresh water, previously the people in this village of Samasambate used to have to walk several kilometers to get muddy river water for drinking and then lead their cattle there. So it's really transforms the whole population. It stops the diarrheal illness, especially in young kids, one of the biggest killers of under fives in the global south, and also helps with feeding, watering the cattle. The joy in this village when we dedicated that well, which was drilled by a Rotarian who had a well drilling company in our club. Just amazing and highly transformational. Book distribution was another big thing for schools. Books were lacking in most schools, and we had the opportunity to share them with primary and high schools to give those and really up the education in the area. One project was improving children's nutritional status with milk, which is just giving them protein so they had their brains and bodies would develop. Probably the most touching, though, was the Joy Autism Center, started by a woman an Ethiopian, who lived in the U.S. and California. Her son was born with autism. He was severely autistic. She got training, came back to Ethiopia, and opened the first center in the country, which these kids couldn't even get out of their houses because people were so scared about them and some of their behaviors. And Zemi just did an amazing job. We were, there she is with her son. We were able to take not only our own club members, but visiting Rotarians. You might recognize a couple of people here. I told Eric Silvers I only put the slide in because his wife Esther is so lovely, as is Sonia Alexander. So, but you can look at Eric too, as well as some other members. Schools, study centers. When you live in a very small 1 or 2 room house and your whole family's in there, it's hard to find a place for students, and particularly secondary school, to study. Sometimes they'll do it out under a street lamp. We're able to open this study center and help them. One of the most impactful, though, and as a surgeon, that really impacted me, was having visiting medical teams that came with various parts of Rotary. Now, you're lucky. Usually on a presentation, I'll have pictures of tumors the size of watermelons. I'm not going to show you that. But if you're squeamish, just close your eyes for one slide. I don't want to offend anybody, but one of the things we really saw was in high numbers was cleft lips. And this is a teenage girl who had never had her cleft lip repaired. And okay, you can open your eyes now. This is what it looks like afterwards. And I can't tell you the difference this makes for the person, for their family, and for the community. I've operated in Rwanda on this condition for as old as 56 years of age. A man who was 56 years old had gone through almost 6 decades with this deformity. And he was so excited when we got the surgery done. It was just amazing. Of course, Polio Plus is huge. Polio is still a scourge in Africa, not new cases, but people still living with it, unable to walk. So many people have been affected by that. And I'm old enough to remember going to get my polio shot when I was young. And some of my colleagues, some of those my age, have been living with polio. And perhaps there's some in this group that have done that. Ezra Teshome, who's been a real advocate for that, and I think spoken in this club, many of you know him. It's really been a blessing to see that happening, working with Rotaractors. They're enthused. They love working with little kids and just giving the drops now, which we use. And this was so respected that the president of Ethiopia would have the visiting teams come over to the presidential palace. I just want to talk about the Rotary Foundation in closing. This is an amazing thing, and we do so much stuff around the world. And down at the bottom, you can just see a list of conflict prevention, peace building, disease prevention, water sanitation and hygiene, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, community and economic development, and environmental protection. These are things that we participate in as Rotarians, not only here at home, but around the world. It really is transformational. Some of you have the privilege, as have I, of having some of our offspring involved in Rotary. Our daughter Rebecca lived in Chengdu, China for 10 years. She was working as an international school teacher and principal and was a member of Rotary there. She can say the four-way test in Mandarin Chinese. I can say it in French, and I think I still remember it in English, but it's wonderful to do. One of my favorite African proverbs is how we can get things done. And the proverb goes, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And that's what we do every day in a Rotary. Together, we can get a lot more done. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to work and be involved in Rotary and have it be part of most of my life abroad. And it's even more wonderful to be back home and to stay involved. The founders of Rotary a century ago could never have imagined where their organization would end up. Thank you. I don't know if we have time for questions, but if we do and you have any, I would be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
Tim, the drilling of freshwater wells, is that still something that's ongoing? Is there still a significant need for such?
Yeah.
Where is Ethiopia in that process?
Well, there's still a need for it. Many rural areas just don't have water. And unfortunately, the aquifer is quite deep. So it's not an easy thing. It's not like you can dig it with a shovel. You need professional equipment. So several of the projects our club did involved that, and it's still ongoing. That's a good question. We take water for granted. And unless you live like down at the lower end of the Colorado River, which is now just a trickle of a stream because it's used up by the time it gets there. You know, people fight about oil, but if you don't have water every day to drink and to do the necessary things with, that's going to be the real future shortage that we're all going to have to deal with, but particularly in the global south. So.
Thank you very much, Tim, for your presentation. Tell us, please, a little bit about the culture of Ethiopia as it relates to cleft palate. Are the folks that have that, are they treated differently? Are they received regularly? Just tell us a little bit about the flavor of the culture.
Well, yeah, Ethiopian culture is wonderful. It's very warm. It's one of the most ancient cultures in the world. It's mentioned in the Bible. It goes way back, and Ethiopians are very proud of that. But like many places, probably every place in the world, when you have some sort of uh, defect, defect like that, a medical illness, or you're born with some condition, there's often the attitude, well, somebody did something wrong, and this is God's punishing the family for doing that. That's even mentioned in the Bible. Who sinned, this guy or his parents? And so often children are hidden, more so with the autistic children. They'll just be hidden at home, or women with obstetric fistulae, which is a huge problem in Ethiopia. That they're leaking urine and or feces all the time. They're often just put in a little shed and treated like an animal. So those sorts of things, and cleft lip, because it's such a visible thing, um, is often they're just hidden away. Down syndrome, trisomy 21, those children you never see out on the street, but they still exist, and I would see them sometimes as patients. The man I mentioned, who was 56, who had this problem, he'd actually come to our hospital in very rural Rwanda with his son, who'd been in an automobile accident, had a badly fractured femur, and I was not able to fix it with a rod or plate and screws, that sort of thing. He was going to have to be in traction for months. And as we were in the emergency room and I was working this young man up, his father was talking to us, but he kept his mouth going like this, and you couldn't really hear him talking. And finally he dropped his hand, and I just gasped because he had a hole in the middle of his face. And at the end of the discussion about his son, I said, hey, have you ever thought about getting that thing fixed? And he said, oh, man, I would love to, but I can't even afford my son. We had charity care, so I knew that we weren't going to turn down someone. So I just asked him, I said, well, if we could find money, which I knew we had, would you be willing to have it done? And he literally jumped. I said, of course. And so when I had an open spot a few days later, because normally our surgery schedule is kind of life-threatening things. This guy made it 56 years. I scheduled him. Now, the interesting thing was his son was one of the most handsome young men I'd seen in Rowan. He could have been a younger brother of Ken Griffey Jr., for those of you that remember the great baseball players, and Ken Griffey Sr. The son was just handsome. So I did the surgery, and you do it with a drape, and so you're just kind of looking at the lip and putting it back together. And I took the drape off, and I literally started crying because he looked just like his son. And he had this handsome face. I wish I could have gone home with him and seen his wife's reaction. I hope he didn't start dating other women, because he was really, I might have ruined the family, but at least I gave him. And yet at the same time, some people don't want it done. We had a woman that came in with a ruptured uterus, and the baby was dead, and the nurses in maternity said, this lady's died. So I went in and listened to her chest, and she still had a heartbeat. And I said, she's not dead yet, as they say in the Princess Bride. So I rolled her over, and she was unconscious, and quickly swabbed her. I started a subclavian IV and ran in fluids, and didn't even need anesthesia. I just zipped her open and put clamps on the arteries. Removed her badly ruptured uterus. But as I turned her over, I noticed she, in her late 20s, had a cleft lip. And after she recovered, I said, have you ever thought about getting that fixed? And she said, well, I couldn't eat if you sewed my mouth up. And I said, well, no, I did this. I worked through a translator. I said, no, we're just going to fix the repair. You'll actually be able to eat better without food coming out of that big opening. But she never would let me do it. She was afraid of it. And we had taken all of her reproductive organs because of the damage. And we explained carefully, sadly, you'll never be able to have children. But every year she came back to infertility clinic and said, I'm still not pregnant. And I said, well, You're not going to be able to do that, sadly, because of your injury. But would you like to get that cleft lip fixed? No, I know what you're trying to do. You want to sew my face up. And I said, no, I don't want to sew your face up. But I never convinced her. So, sorry, that's a long answer to your very short question. And I digressed. Okay. Thank you.
Wow, what a story. And I imagine there are a dozen more stories like that. Dr. Tim would be happy to talk with anybody who'd like to stay afterwards. Again, congratulations for a great career of service, both locally as well as around the world. For future programs, next week we're going to be back here at the convention center. We will be assembling the school bags for the teachers as well as all the students at Adams Elementary. So that'll be here at the center. August 13th, we go off-site to YVC's conference center. We'll have our Rotary District Governor Jill, as well as other team members. She's going to be talking about her plans, plus some of the projects around the district. And so, since I've been doing a joke of the week, and this is summertime now, I thought I'd share a few timely dad jokes for you. Okay, so what's a frog's favorite summertime snack? I see Brad's already left. He might have known this one. A hopsicle. How do you know the ocean is friendly in the summer? There we go. Doug got that right. And where do cows go on vacation? New York. Okay. I think that's over, so let's move on. We're dismissed. Thank you.